Cheryl Ann Barnes was just 17 years old when she stepped out into the cool January evening of 1974, full of teenage promise and unaware that her life was about to become one of America's most haunting mysteries. She had been celebrating her birthday in Marlboro, Maryland, and when she left the house, she told her family she would be back soon. But Cheryl never returned. Her disappearance was not like other teenage runaways. She left behind her purse, her belongings, and the life she had carefully built. Her parents knew instantly that something was wrong. The minutes turned into hours, the hours into days, and panic set in. What had happened to Cheryl in those short moments between stepping outside and vanishing into the night? Neighbors began to whisper. Authorities launched an investigation. Friends and classmates replayed their last conversations with her over and over. Every possible lead was followed, yet none brought answers. Cheryl's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through her community. An ordinary birthday turned into an unthinkable nightmare. And as days turned into weeks, the mystery deepened. Where was Cheryl Ann Barnes? Had she been taken? Was she alive, waiting to be found? Or had something darker already silenced her voice forever? In the hours after Cheryl failed to return home, her family's unease turned into dread. This wasn't like her. Cheryl was responsible, dependable, and close to her parents. The authorities were alerted quickly, and before long, her disappearance became a community-wide search. Police retraced her last known steps, speaking with friends and classmates who had seen her earlier that day. Some recalled that she had been in good spirits, excited about turning 17. Others remembered her mentioning plans to step out briefly, but no one knew where she was headed. That gap in her timeline became the haunting question. Who did she meet, and where did she go? The neighborhood was canvassed, fields and wooded areas scoured, and volunteers combed through back roads. Flyers with Cheryl's face were taped to storefronts, gas stations, and schools. Each passerby was asked the same desperate question. Had they seen the brown-haired, blue-eyed teenager in her birthday clothes? What investigators discovered unsettled them. Witnesses claimed they had spotted Cheryl entering a vehicle that night, though details were inconsistent. Some said it was a dark-colored car, others swore it was lighter. The uncertainty muddied the investigation, leaving detectives chasing shadows. Then came a lead that chilled everyone. Cheryl may have been tricked. Rumors spread that someone had called her pretending to be a friend, luring her out into the night. If true, it suggested she had walked straight into a trap. Her family clung to hope, working tirelessly with law enforcement, pleading through the media for her safe return. But each day without answers stretched their grief tighter. It wasn't just the lack of clues, it was the gnawing sense that someone knew what happened but wasn't speaking. As weeks turned into months, Cheryl's case shifted from a missing teenager to something more ominous, a suspected abduction. And in time, the silence around her disappearance would prove more terrifying than any single clue. As days turned into weeks and then into long, painful months, the search for Cheryl Ann Barnes began to stall. Detectives worked tirelessly at first, chasing down every tip, every supposed sighting, every fragment of rumor that might explain her sudden vanishing. But the evidence was thin, and soon the leads grew cold. The vehicle witnesses claimed to have seen no trace. The mysterious phone call rumor? Impossible to confirm. Even the possibility that Cheryl had left on her own seemed unlikely. Her purse, identification, and personal belongings remained untouched at home, along with the life she had built. Nothing pointed to a runaway. Everything pointed to foul play. Her parents refused to let the silence swallow her memory. They appeared on television, in newspapers, and at public events, their grief raw, but their determination unbroken. Someone knew something. That became their mantra. They pressed the community to remember, to search their memories of that night, to notice if a neighbor's behavior had suddenly changed. But the answers never came. As the years passed, theories multiplied. Some believed Cheryl had been abducted by someone she knew, perhaps a so-called friend, who had betrayed her trust. Others whispered about predators roaming nearby highways, catching vulnerable teens. Each theory raised hope briefly, but none delivered closure. The case began to fade from headlines, replaced by newer tragedies, but it never faded from the hearts of those who loved her. Cheryl's empty seat at family gatherings, her birthday passing each January with no celebration, the silence of her absence, all became unbearable reminders of what had been stolen. By the mid-1970s, Cheryl's case was effectively cold. The files sat in drawers, revisited occasionally, but never yielding answers. Her name became another entry in the long list of missing children whose stories seemed destined to be forgotten by all but family. But for those who remembered Cheryl, the bright, beautiful 17-year-old whose life ended in mystery, her disappearance was not just a cold case. It was a wound that time could not heal, and one that demanded justice that never came. Even as the years slipped by, the mystery of Cheryl Ann Barnes never stopped gnawing at those who knew her. She wasn't a child who could be dismissed as a runaway, nor a stranger without roots. She was a daughter, a sister, a classmate, and a friend, a girl whose life was intertwined with her community, and yet she had vanished into thin air. Investigators and amateur sleuths continued to turn the case over in their minds, and several theories began to take hold. One theory suggested that Cheryl had been lured out of her home that night by someone she trusted. The odd phone call rumor, though unproven, seemed too striking to ignore. If someone had pretended to be a friend in trouble or needing to meet, it could explain why she left the house without hesitation. If true, her abduction may not have been random at all, but premeditated. Another theory pointed to opportunistic predators. In the 1970s, Maryland, like much of America, was grappling with rising crime rates and a growing awareness of serial offenders who prowled for victims near highways and small towns. Cheryl's last known movements placed her in a vulnerable position, and some investigators wondered if she had fallen prey to a stranger passing through, leaving behind no trace. The lack of physical evidence was perhaps the most chilling part. No body, no personal items discarded, no clear witness accounts, just silence. It was as though Cheryl had been erased in an instant, leaving her family trapped in an endless loop of questions without answers. Her disappearance also sparked reflection on the fragile systems meant to protect young people. In the 1970s, tools like Amber Alerts, national databases, and advanced forensic technology didn't yet exist. Families like Cheryl's were often left to fight alone, relying on word of mouth, posters on telephone poles, and the hope that someone, somewhere, might notice a face in a crowd. For Cheryl's loved ones, the weight of theories brought no comfort. Each possibility was a doorway to grief, either betrayal by someone she knew or a random act of horror that left no one accountable. The uncertainty was a punishment all its own, a wound reopened every time a new idea surfaced but failed to bring her home. As anniversaries passed, Cheryl's story lingered like an echo, half memory, half ghost. For her family, Closure never came. For her community, the lesson was sobering. If Cheryl could vanish without a trace, so could anyone. The disappearance of Cheryl Ann Barnes remains a wound that never healed, a case without resolution, a story without its final page. For her family, each year that passed was marked not by milestones of growth, but by anniversaries of absence. Birthdays came and went with an empty chair at the table, a silence where her laughter should have been. Every January reminded them of the girl who stepped out into the night and never returned. Though decades have passed, Cheryl's name has not been forgotten. Her story continues to live in the archives of unsolved mysteries, in the memories of classmates who never saw her graduate, and in the voices of her parents who once pleaded through television cameras for her safe return. It lives, too, in the cautious warnings of communities who learned that even ordinary nights can turn into nightmares. Her case underscores the fragility of youth and the dangers hidden in plain sight. Cheryl wasn't reckless. She wasn't running away from her life. She was a teenage girl stepping outside, believing she was safe in her own neighborhood. What happened to her remains unknown, but the lesson left behind is chilling. Security can shatter in an instant, and justice delayed often becomes justice denied. Yet, even in the face of silence, there is power in remembering. Families of the missing often say that the greatest fear is not what happened, it is that their loved one will be forgotten. By retelling Cheryl's story, her presence endures. By keeping her name alive, her voice still speaks. Cheryl Ann Barnes should have lived to see her dreams unfold, to build a family, to celebrate many more birthdays. Instead, her legacy is carried in mystery and in the determination of those who refuse to let her story fade. And though her fate remains uncertain, one truth is clear. Cheryl was loved, she was wanted, and she deserves to be remembered. Her case may remain unsolved, but her story will not be lost. If Cheryl's story moved you, please like, comment your thoughts, and share so more people can learn about her and keep her memory alive. Every share is a reminder that no one who vanishes should ever be forgotten.